What is up? What is going on, fellas?
Hey,
another episode of the Hoof Live. Okay, and tonight we got a special guest. Okay, this guy, he is the Bruce Nolan, the Don of Bill's Mafia. Okay, he's the godfather of Bill's Mafia.
Oh, hey.
I mean, look, I'm gonna gas you up because it's true, but you're not. Look, if you're gonna have a hard time finding a smarter mind than this guy that we have on the show tonight. I'm just being honest. Bruce is from the Buffalo Rumblings network. Like last week, we had Jay Spence. So I guess maybe we're doing a tour of Buffalo Rumblings, having those guys on and whatever. But
Bruce is doing a tour of Cover One. He was on with Prohaska on Disguised Coverage on Thursday, and now he's on with us today. So.
Right. And for those of you who are wondering, did we see Bruce's identity? No. Like, he's still Jim Carrey. Okay. He's Bruce Nolan. Like, this is his thing. So there was nothing, no hanky-panky behind the scenes, man. But again, this is the Hoof Live, and we are glad to have you here. What a week. What a week.
Guys, a playoff win.
A playoff win.
I mean, I don't know what your guys' reaction was. I wish we could have been together for the moment. We were texting, and we said, we wish we could be together. But, man, I literally fell to my knees and teared up. I didn't know how to react. I didn't. It was just, even though there was so much emotion in that game and in that last minute, as we're going to get to, it was just that overwhelming feeling of 25 years.
Yeah.
And what it all means in the end.
It's a long time.
I fell to my knees.
And now you got to get yourself together because there's another game.
Yeah, right. Now
are you gonna cry again if they win again?
Probably not, because that first one was more, now it's business, right? Now it feels like business. Of course, I didn't know that was going to be my reaction to that anyway. It just happened naturally. So we'll see in this Baltimore game on Saturday. Saturday's my birthday, so the best birthday present I've ever gotten. The Buffalo Bills are playing on my birthday for the first time that I can remember, at least.
Well, folks, Anthony's making it about himself once again. Bruce, how you doing down there, Bruce?
I'm doing fantastic, guys. I don't know. I've never been introduced as the godfather of Bill's Mafia before, so I kind of feel like I should lead off with, I'm going to come off
the scratch of the face, man.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, I got to do that. Stick my chin out real good, make sure I got a good underbite going on. Yeah, it's a good time. I think that the win was interesting for me. The playoff win was definitely interesting for me. I think that there's a qualitative benefit to this season and the growth that we've seen. But then you also want that validation of getting one step further. So there's two separate things. Like, we know that this team is a better team than it was last year. We know that. And it's largely because Josh Allen is markedly better than he was last year. So we know that. But there's still this moment where if you don't get as far as you think you should, you almost feel like you're going to spend the entire offseason defending why this team was actually better.
Yeah.
And so you think to yourself, yeah, okay, we know this team was better, but they still got bounced in the first round. And you're going to spend the entire offseason on social media trying to teach people, no, this team really was better, because it's not just how far you got in the playoffs. So you want that validation. You know this team is better, but you need the validation of that first playoff win to get there. In addition, let's just thank the Bills content creation gods that we do not have to spend the entire offseason talking about why Sean McDermott is not Marvin Lewis.
Right.
Because that is what I was worried about. Really, I was just concerned about myself. I mean, let's just leave the whole podcasting thing beside. I'm just really worried about my own sanity this offseason, and I'm glad I don't have to deal with it.
Well,
But can we talk about how close it was, though?
Hold on. Save all that. Save all that.
Almost we're doing that.
Save all that, because we're going to get into the Colts game. But before we do anything else, you guys already know what we do, man. So I got to give some shout outs to some people who decide to spend their night with us. We got Matt saying, let's go. Oh, Kathy. She's with child, Anthony's child. Okay. And it is a boy. Little Josh Allen Jr.
Josh Allen Romeo.
Tonight she asked me, what happens if I go into labor during the show? I'm like, well, you come get me or you tell me.
Yeah. So Anthony could be leaving at any moment. Yeah. And with Anthony,
the show's over.
His child will be born on Saturday at kickoff. Ice storm. There's an ice storm in Buffalo. I mean, not in Denver. Not in Denver.
That's beautiful here.
But Azor, hi, what's going on, man? Reptiles in here. We got Joseph. What's going on, man? Yes, Big D. Yes, that's right. That's me. One Buffalo Center. I haven't seen you in here, and you are from Facebook. So congratulations. Thank you for watching the Hoof live tonight. We appreciate the support. 3 more. Let's go. Let's get it. Yeah, I agree, Chris. So, all right, man. We got a jam-packed show for you tonight. You know, we got the man, the myth, the legend. Bruce Nolan decided to hang out with us tonight. You know, we had to pay him off with so many lavish gifts that he will not talk about on the show tonight. But you know,
so that box of grape nuts that showed up in my office, right here, right here.
Yeah, you know, that's how
I go into my office for the recording process, and there's just a box of grape nuts sitting there. I'm assuming it's from you guys.
Yeah, sorry we didn't send the milk, bro. Sorry we didn't send the milk.
It's cool. I'm trying to keep my lactose down anyway.
My guy Joe Miller's in the house. He said, "I heard Bruce uses all the hot water if he showers first." So Bruce is a hot water whore, apparently, according to Joe Miller. So that's
clearly.
You know, and we got Gary in here. Gary likes to sketch images of himself. That's special. Anyway, so you know, there's a lot of you guys in here, and we definitely appreciate everybody supporting us. You know, if you are listening for the first time, this is the Hoof Live. We are part of the Cover One Network. Our job is to provide our fans and you know, with the best content available. This is what we all do, and we love it. I mean, this is really a lot of fun. So, you know, if you want your comments displayed, you know, we do super chats and so forth. So, you know, if you're watching on YouTube, there is a little button you can hit for that. But I try to get people's comments up there, especially if they're funny. So keep it coming. All right. So for those of you who have not watched this show, we kind of have a format that we like to do. We kind of go around the NFL first, and then we kind of get into our Bills content. And we are going to definitely kind of wrap up the Colts and then go jump into the game this weekend. So we are going to do that. But there's a couple things that we need to take care of before we even do that. So this is what's popping. This is where we go around the league. You know, we try to get the latest and the greatest or things that we feel like is necessary to talk about. And our guys here do not get to see what's on the docket as far as our topics are concerned. So they are, on the hot seat. All right. They're on the hot seat. So are you guys ready?
Let's go.
I want some arguments. I want some debate. Look, we got Bruce Nolan on here, Anthony, and I'm going to need you to like step it up, bro. I'm going to need you to bring it. Okay. Because the Don is here and he ain't, you know, you ever seen, what's that movie with Will Ferrell and the other guys where he's like, Gator don't take no bitch. Well, that's Bruce tonight. All right. Bruce ain't taking no prisoners tonight. So he's Gator. All right. You guys ready? Here we go. First topic. Bama wins the college football championship. I personally did not want to see Bama win another title. The evil Saban gets his 6th ring. And can anyone stop Devontae Smith? So, Bruce, you know, we're going to start with you tonight. You're going to go first on this topic. Kind of just talk about what your feelings were. I'm sure you watched the game. I'm sure you got a chance to watch Devontae Smith. Eric will go with you, and then Anthony will end with you.
I did get a chance to watch the game. I am a Ohio State fan, so that did not go as well as I would have liked it. Although I will admit it did not go differently, markedly, than I thought it was going to go. So I'm not happy by any chance that the Peanuts hoodie is fantastic. Sterl's got the Peanuts hoodie. That's pretty awesome. I always picture myself as the teacher from the Peanuts shelter.
Yeah.
But, you know, the Buckeyes losing was not shocking to me. The method by which they lost was not shocking either. You know, we're talking about one of the better offenses in the history of college football. I mean, last year, there was the discussion about, you know, who on earth could possibly top this LSU offense? And then the next year, Alabama comes out and they managed to be a great offense again. So I'm not surprised by any chance. I do think that the Buckeyes beating Clemson kind of validates their presence which helps. So I don't have to spend the entire Buckeye offseason defending their presence in the National College Football Playoff, which is always pleasant for sure. But the good news is that no one in the college football ranks has to worry about stopping Devonta Smith at this point because he's moving on to the next. And Devonta Smith is he's going to be a very, very interesting draft eval because this is a player who doesn't seem to fit in a really good box when you look at comparables from a draft standpoint. When you scout the traits, you're like, okay, there is a really significant frame concern with Devonta Smith. He's very, very, very thin. Sure. And then you have the people who are really concerned about breakout age and things like that. And it's going to be a really fascinating discussion with Devonta Smith. There's plenty of people who don't even think he's the best receiver on his own team as far as Jalen Waddle goes. So, and then you have the fact that, last year it was again surrounded by great talent. It's the same Tua Tagovailoa aspect and the argument that's going to continue to come out. When you are part of a team that is that good, how much credit is given on the individual level versus how much is assigned on a macro level. So I think Devonta Smith is going to be a fascinating prospect for us to study leading up to the draft. As far as Nick Saban goes, you don't want to admit it, but you have to understand that Nick Saban at this point is the greatest college football coach of all time. Yes, he's better than Bear Bryant because there's more parity with social media now having such a significant impact on recruiting and recruiting getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger geographically that there's more parity now in college football than there ever has been because of the ability of people in Iowa to recruit people in Florida, which was not the case 60 years ago. Right. So the fact of the matter is that there is a really significant argument to be made. And I think it's pretty slam dunk that Nick Saban is the greatest college football head coach of all time, not just from a recruiting standpoint. Think about this for a second. What is a head coach's job in college football? It's to acquire talent. Now, it's not necessarily just to acquire talented players. And this is the part that we always miss about Nick Saban, that his ability to constantly churn through offensive coordinators and continue to put out good offenses with Sarkisian, with Dable, Bill O'Brien's going to, if you want to rehab your image, go to Alabama and sign up as an offensive coordinator because Nick Saban will give you all the talent you need. And so he's got this engine revving. And the fact of the matter is that when it's not just about acquiring talented players, it's about acquiring talented coaches too. And so many people can do one or the other, but they can't do both. And that's what Saban does so well. I hate it. Don't get me wrong, but you can't deny it.
No, I don't think there's much denying it. And Bruce, you put that so eloquently, sir. It's so smooth coming out of your mouth, bro. But I hate Nick Saban. I ain't gonna lie. I'm a Michigan fan, so I hate Ohio State too. And you know that, Bruce. You know that.
I do.
We are not very good. We haven't been good for a very long time. But it's interesting. It is something to definitely look at. And when you have a winning culture, I think a winning culture produces success. And I know that sounds very John Madden, but it's true. Nick Saban is probably the greatest college football coach that we'll ever see in our lifetime. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, what he was able to do, and it's not like, it just all happened to Alabama. I mean, if you really study Nick Saban, I mean, he had, it was starting in Michigan State. Then it went to LSU, and then it just blossomed in Alabama. So, I mean, this train has been coming and going for a very long time. Eric, where are you at on all this, man?
I get into college football mostly for draft prospects, things like that. So this game is actually great in that aspect because there's 10 or 11 potential first rounders, right? So this is like a scouting dream. But I'm a Syracuse fan. So I don't really know what you guys are talking about when you talk about Ohio State being a fan and Michigan. I mean, we're just kind of like Cleveland fans right now. We're just happy to be there. When they beat Clemson, it was great. It was like the biggest moment in the recent history. But anyway, Devonta Smith, I mean, to me, he looks like Deshaun Jackson in a Percy Harvin role almost. And I'm just not sure how that's going to work out in the NFL. He's all over the place, playing multiple roles. To me, and I haven't got too deep yet into the receivers or anything, and I don't claim to be a scout myself, but I'd take Jamar Chase over him, and like Bruce said, I think I'd take Waddle over him on the NFL level.
Interesting.
Najee Harris, obviously another prospect to look at in this game, had an incredible game. I think he's going to be a great pro. And a couple maybe Bills prospects, Alex Leatherwood for Alabama and Dylan Moses, linebacker. So, two guys there. And then obviously Wyatt Davis, guard for Ohio State. So that's how I look at the championship game. And I saw the best meme ever about Nick Saban. He's kind of like when you play Madden and you're in like the fifth season and your dynasty's just undefeated every single year. And what do? You start over.
Yes.
Right. And I think it's time for Nick Saban to find a different team
I don't know though. Because one of the points I was going to make is Nick Saban is almost genius in the fact that he used the NFL as leverage to become a better college coach, right? He came just as a stint so that he could probably get more money and more years and more commitment from Alabama. And now he's found his niche and he is the greatest ever to do it. And how many coaches can say they've done that, tried the NFL and said, oh, I failed, or, oh, it's not for me, and then gone and become a historic college coach. He was pretty good before he made it to the NFL, obviously, with the national championship and all that. But now he goes to Alabama and just establishes them as the most dominant team in college football history with 6 championships now. And he just compiles on the recruiting. Like Bruce was saying, now he can say to Bill O'Brien, hey, I've got 6 national championships. You want to come work for me? And every coach is lining up to say, heck yeah, give me another chance. I'd love to be with you, do something I love, and win a national championship or compete every single year for a national championship, as he is always there, right? Even in the years they didn't win. So yeah, Nick Saban, unbelievable. The Devontae Smith conversation is one to be had, because when I think of that, I think, okay, now you got to think in terms of the NFL GMs. There's only 32 of them. They're the guys who are running the draft. And without a doubt, one of them is going to say, this guy won the Heisman. He's the best player. He's got all these great stats. Yeah, he won the national championship. He was a big part of that game that they won. Let's draft this guy. He's going to be elite. And the question is that enough? And we know it's not, right? Historically, that's not, those are the criteria in college that make you the best player there at the time. But does that translate to the NFL? I don't know. And the big question I have is he going to end up in the AFC East, right? The Miami Dolphins and the Jets drafting where they are, having a player like that on the board. Is there better talent out there? Yes. But like I said, do you trust every GM to not go after the low-hanging fruit of somebody who's got these many credentials on his hands? I don't know. So we'll see what happens. It'll be very interesting to see what happens in the draft with him this year.
Well, it is a discussion to be had. I like Devontae Smith as a prospect. I like Jamar Chase a little better, though, to be honest. I like Rashad Bateman as well. There's going to be some really solid wide receivers coming out. But Devontae Smith, he's smooth, man. He does a lot of things well. I don't think he does any one thing like extraordinary, but he does a lot of things well. And like to Bruce's point, it helps when you're surrounded by a bunch of 5-star recruits,
right?
Just like you. They just pump them out. But, we're going to give props and shout outs to Alabama and their fans. Even though we see this mess every year, them winning championships, we're kind of tired of it. But it is what it is. So we're just going to keep it moving. All right, shall we? Shall we, Bruce? Are you still there, Bruce?
Absolutely.
All right, so let's chop this up. Doug Peterson fired. My guy, Doug Peterson. They said, you know what? A Super Bowl a couple years ago wasn't enough. You're gone. And so the franchise quarterback in Carson Wentz, what does his future look like now that Doug Peterson is out in Philly? Bruce, we'll start with you.
Well, I think the obvious connection to Joe Douglas, the GM of the New York Jets, I think has to be made. However, it looks more and more like the Jets are focusing on Robert Saleh, from the defensive coordinator from the San Francisco 49ers, who I talked about on my podcast as being my personal awardee for assistant coach of the year, based on what he did with a significantly shorthanded 49ers defense this year against division rivals multiple times, against good quarterbacks. I was very pleased. And so I understand that. I'm not happy that he will be the Jets head coach if he does indeed do that. The thing for me about this move when it comes to Doug Peterson is this just feels like a Howie Roseman move.
It does.
And what I mean by that is, Howie Roseman, if we track his career backwards, he lost a power struggle with Chip Kelly, and he kind of got pushed aside. And then Chip Kelly took control of that organization and promptly drove it into a cliff. And then the pendulum swung back the other way as far as Jeffrey Lurie goes. It swung back the other way, and Jeffrey Lurie was like, you know what, Howie, I'm so sorry, man. It's like a little bit when you break up with your girl and you guys get back together, and for a brief moment, everything is perfect and the makeup is great and everything that you guys doing is amazing and you're filled with this rush of endorphins. And Howie Roseman's like, man, I can do no wrong. The pendulum swung the other way and they won a Super Bowl. And that was awesome. But the Eagles actually haven't drafted very well for the last couple of years. And when you have the erosion of talent and the over-reliance on older, overpaid veterans who are losing the steam like Alshon Jeffrey, and you don't have the influx of new talent that is the bedrock foundational piece of long-term success as a franchise, then you're going to have some issues. And when that happens, GMs are real good about making sure that the appropriate person in their mind gets blame. And here's how they do it. What they say is, hey, Doug, buddy, pal, friend, what would you like from me? And Doug's like, well, I really feel like we need a backup quarterback. Great. Jalen Hurts in the second round. And then when something goes poorly, they can go, I don't know. Doug said he wanted Jalen Hurts in the second round. I don't know. It sounds like he's crazy, man. I don't know. If you got me a better coach, maybe this would be okay. And so GMs are great about that. And Howie Roseman specifically is great about that. And I do think this just feels to me like, I believe when Doug Peterson reports are that he was tired of getting told what to do. I do believe that Doug Peterson was like, this is some horse crap here. And if I go in with my meeting with Jeffrey Lurie and Jeffrey Lurie says, listen, Doug, I can't help but notice we've been talking to Howie and here's what Howie thinks you should do. And Doug's like, you know what? Screw Howie. Okay. You know what? I don't want to do any of the things that Howie just said. I think I'm not going to do any of those things. And Jeffrey Lurie's like, okay, fine. You're fired. He goes, good. He goes, well, good. Well, no, you good. You hang up first. No, you hang up first. And that's exactly. And so this does feel to me like something that almost feels like a secondary power struggle for Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson. And Howie Roseman lost the first time. He got ushered back into good graces by the dismissal of Chip Kelly. And now it kind of feels like he won this one. That's my interpretation of the situation. Of course, I could be completely wrong, but if you add the pieces together, it feels like this is part of it. And with the Carson Wentz thing, it kind of feels like maybe it was Peterson or Wentz. And so in this case, the franchise, quite frankly, has more invested in Wentz than they do in Peterson. So for them, it is, yes, I'm the MF GOAT, apparently. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
I mean, PJ is like, that's our guy. And so is the real Chris Jenkins, our guy, too.
You know
PJ
what?
PJ gives you high praise, man.
If PJ says it, then who am I to argue, right? Who am I to argue? So that is my interpretation of the situation. I do think I don't think they want to get rid of Carson Wentz. I really don't. I don't think they want to do that. And I think that if Peterson's gone, then the door is still open for Wentz to stay. And if Peterson stays, then the door's not open. And I think it's easier, quite frankly, for them to fire a coach and bring in somebody different than it is for them to unload Carson Wentz.
Yeah. I think we were all still a little bit shocked that they fired Peterson. It didn't seem like it was going that route, but not completely shocked, obviously, because there's been a lot going on with the Eagles this year to show you that they're in a little bit of disarray. But I think the winner here is Peterson, right? He said, like Bruce very nicely explained how this situation was, basically from the outside, at least. He's like, are you kidding me? I'm a Super Bowl winning head coach. I can walk out that door and get another job right now. So I don't need to put up with you. And he basically invested in himself and said, screw you, I'm done. And they said, you're fired. He's like, great, I'm out of here and I'm going to get a better job and take that team to a Super Bowl now and do what I can with that team. So I think, it works out well for Peterson. And the biggest question now is the Wentz situation. I think it's going to depend on who they hire, right? If they bring in a guy and they're like, they're interviewing candidates, and now that's the $1 million question. Do you have a plan for Wentz? Or do you say, we're going to move on from Wentz because I want to start from scratch? And if a coach can convince them either way, I tend to believe that they're going to keep Wentz now, not only because of his cap implications, but because 3 years ago, he was one of the top 5 QBs in the NFL. So I mean, there's still some potential to work with and mold there if you're a head coach coming in. And on the other side of that, maybe there's a candidate who blows them away, who's their favorite guy, and all of a sudden he says, you know what, I don't think Wentz is the future here. This is what I want to do and where I want to start and how I want to rebuild. I think they'd be fine with that if that coach can convince them he's the guy. So I'm leaning more toward them hiring somebody who can say, here's how I'm going to fix Wentz versus the other option. But it's definitely a big story in the offseason now.
Yeah, like you said, Anthony, it's Wentz is a top 5 quarterback last offseason. I think we put him top 5, when we did our rankings. And I think we can all agree on this as well. It's a lot harder to find a franchise quarterback or somebody you can even talk about being a top 5 guy in the NFL than it is to find a head coach.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah. And we know
a lot to get a quarterback. So
and Wentz clearly wasn't happy in the situation, right?
And
we know.
I think the Eagles are going to turn over their roster. They're going to go through a rebuild because they are the oldest team in the NFL. I think on the average, I think they're the oldest, if not top 3. So. Yeah, I personally think this Eagles job is probably one of the lower jobs out there. Maybe you agree with that, maybe you don't. But
absolutely,
because they are older and you got to go through that rebuild, and that takes 3 years. Could take 5 years. And if this next coach coming in, will they get that much time? Not likely.
Yeah.
So the only thing they have going for them is the quarterback, but don't expect them to get the top candidate.
Other than maybe the Texans, if Deshaun is really on his way out and the disarray that's there. I mean, that's probably...
You could argue that roster might be stripped already, or it's closer to being stripped, right? You still have to do all the stripping in Philadelphia.
But you have no picks either. So
yeah, I was about to bring that point up. But I think you guys, all three of you guys hit on some pretty good topics there. As far as my take on the Eagles, I think that... it starts at the GM. It starts with the people you have around you. I don't care how great you think your quarterback is, but if you fail to put pieces around him and really understand the DNA of your quarterback, like if you look at Josh Allen, they went and got Stephon Diggs, who shares the same similar DNA as he does. They're both dogs, they're both got a chip on their shoulder. People knock Carson Wentz about his leadership ability and leadership skill. I think those things matter. I think, the Eagles did, in some regards, they did do a good job of putting staff around Doug Peterson when they had John DeFilippo and some of these Frank Reich and some of these other guys. But if you can't restock the cupboard, right, and you take a gamble on these older, more expensive players, I mean, you have to take your medicine at some point, Denver Broncos, and you have to start bringing in younger talent, and that's how you're going to sustain success in this league. So that's definitely it's something that think about. I don't think the Eagles now are going to get rid of Carson Wentz. I think he's going to stay, which is good for. I mean, you never want to see franchise quarterbacks, move franchises. Yeah. I'm old school that way. I definitely want to see those guys stay where they're planted and groomed. But let's keep it moving, y'all. Hoof or bun. So Bruce, this is a part of the show.
Start with me here.
MVP. I need your MVP. And your least valuable player and we're gonna do last call on Colts. So let me change this up real quick because this is the inside slant. So I know you guys are out there saying, well, why? We got a big playoff game this weekend. Well, we're taking stages, baby. Okay, so we're gonna close out the Colts. We're gonna get our final thoughts on the Colts. So we are gonna definitely move to the Ravens game because there are some things that I want to get some of you guys' opinion on. So this is the inside slant. So. Hoof or buns? Anthony, we'll start with you. Bruce will go next, and then Eric, you'll finish up.
My mouth is watering. I've been waiting for this moment since the end of the game on Saturday because, oh my God, I mean, that was an emotional roller coaster of a game, as we all know, as we all experienced firsthand. But the one thing that, that I won't take the low-hanging fruit for Hoof and say, one of the stars, but the one that stands out to me the most, the one I loved from this game is Tyler freaking Bass, because he stood up in the moment that mattered. Our guy right here, Eric, questioning him all season long, saying,
you're missing the point, though, Anthony. It's not him himself. It's rookie kickers in general. I don't like rookie kickers.
It's fine, but tell me, I mean, what did I texted you guys excited. Why? Because this is literally why you drafted Tyler Mother freaking Bass. This is why. Why? Because last year in a playoff game, when you needed to kick a long field goal, you knew it was impossible. You couldn't do it. You did not even have an opportunity. 4th and 15 and maybe a 50-yard field goal, guess what? You're going for it if you need points in that game because you can't kick it, period. And in this game, the whole time as we were leading up to this, I'm like, don't go for it. Don't go for it. Put the kicker out there. This is what you drafted him for. And sure enough, they did. And he nailed that 54-yarder. It probably would have been good from 70. It was crazy, crazy good. Yeah. And he's got the leg. And it's just that moment. And he's obviously been more consistent as the years gone on and just been there and kicked these field goals when we needed him. In the Arizona game, he had 3 50-yard field goals. But in this game, wow. And we only won by 3 points. So that turned out to be the decisive thing. And you bring up rookie kickers, Blankenship on the other side didn't make his, and his was a chip shot, a 33-yarder. Yeah. Granted, he's plays for Indy, who does most of their kicking indoors.
He gets all the credit. Like, he's a stud.
Absolutely. And that's what I mean. You're talking, if there's a franchise kicker, he's definitely that guy. And this was the moment that, I mean, Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott were both like, well, this is literally what we were talking about 1 year ago at this moment right now. We were saying, okay, we need to find a guy who can be that guy for us in the playoffs and kick a long field goal if it comes down to it, because we know that these games are competitive. You're playing the best in the league. So Tyler Bass, wow, what a game from him. He's definitely my Hoof. My Buns, now this, we all witnessed what happened in that last minute of this football game. I have never been more irate, I think, in my life than I was at that moment, because yes, this is meaningful. Yes, it was 25 years we waited for this win. Indianapolis fumbles the ball, Bills recover, game is over. Everybody sees it on the replay for some reason on the field. I mean, maybe you can give him the benefit of the doubt to say that maybe it looked like he was down in real time. But on the replay, so the call ended up not being fumble, but on the replay, anyone with eyes could see he got up. He wasn't touched. The ball comes out. It's a fumble. Everybody said it. All of the announcers, all of the people watching the game, every Bills fan, every Colts fan, everyone on planet Earth with eyes said, well, that's a fumble. The game's over. And the NFL decided, and don't give me this bull crap about they thought or give the referees the benefit of the doubt. There is no mother freaking benefit of the doubt when it comes to this. The NFL made a calculated decision to give the Colts a chance when they did not deserve it. They wanted the game to at least go into overtime and maybe let them win. It was absolute bullcrap on the NFL standpoint, and everybody with eyes who was watching that game knows it. I had friends from all over the world texting me saying, oh my God, they're trying to screw you over with this. And I could not believe it. And after the game, when we did win 30 seconds later, I couldn't hold back. I usually censor myself on Twitter. I did not. I said, F you referees, F you NFL, F you guys in New York City in the replay booth, because you tried to screw us again, and you're not getting away with it.
No, I got your point. All right. Let's keep it moving. That great job, Bruce.
It was unbelievable.
Give it to me, Bruce. What you got?
Okay, first off, I want to make sure I understand this correctly, that you are of the opinion, Anthony, that there is a global conspiracy at play involving the NFL officials in order to specifically make a call they know not to be true in order to try to sustain a game or give Indianapolis a chance because they have.
There was no way in hell they replayed that and said, this isn't a fumble. Let's go with the play on the field.
So your solution is that you're going tinfoil hat on me right now. Is that what's happening now? You do realize that tinfoil interferes with your podcast microphone, right, Anthony?
It's the rational explanation. Look back at the first interception in the Rams game too, right? When Allen threw his first interception, they called that one an interception somehow. Which was
all part of the global conspiracy, right?
Hold on. Somebody's chiming in here. Dominic Biondi says, who is this Anthony clown? The NFL didn't conspire.
They didn't conspire anything. They made the decision. They said, we want this game to continue. This is happening. I mean,
right. You're implying that the reason they made the call was because they had ulterior motives. You said that you wanted to give the Colts a chance. So they specifically chose to keep the ruling on the field.
Maybe everybody working there is blind. If they're legally blind, I forgive them. Yes, you're right. That's the other option. Or maybe they're just stupid and they're terrible at their jobs and they should all be immediately fired. Yes, that is the other option. The NFL
Anthony, you are familiar with Occam's razor, are you not? You are a scientist.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
the far more simple solution is that they're just wrong.
Yeah.
And so I have a very hard time sometimes in concocting conspiracy when the easiest solution is that they're just stupid. So
Yes.
I have found, this has been my experience, that stupid people are far more common in the world than sneaky people. And so for more often than not, when you think somebody's being sneaky, they're actually just dumb. And that's a possibility here, for sure. So back to my hoof and buns, right?
Yes, let's hear it. Let's hear it.
So my hoof for this game is Josh Allen. And obviously my hoof is for this game is Josh Allen for a lot of reasons. But first off, this game had a very sort of New York Jets week 1 vibe to me. And what I mean by that is if you look at the percentage of offense for Josh Allen in week 1 versus the percentage of total offense for Josh Allen for the entire team in week 18, I suppose, is what we use, right? Yeah, that's good. So Josh Allen accounted for 355 of the Bills' 397 total yards. Well, here's the thing. That in week 1 was 369 out of 404.
Mm-hmm.
Very similar. When the traditional runs aren't working the way they weren't working superly against the Indianapolis Colts, and they weren't working super well against the New York Jets in week 1, where do you see Brian Daboll go? You see him go to the quarterback run game. And so when that happens, what happened week 1 was Josh Allen ran into trouble with ball security. And we didn't have that happen in the game against Indianapolis. So when Josh Allen is called upon to be even more significant part of the offense than he already is, he rose to the occasion. The Colts were sitting in too high. Even when the Bills went empty set, they were still in too high. That's the reason why you kept seeing all those quarterback draws, because the box numbers were correct.
Right.
And that has to, in order for that to work, Josh Allen has to hold on the darn ball. And that's not what happened against the New York Jets in week 1, but it did happen against Indianapolis in week 18. Mm-hmm. So when you're not having traditional runs that are succeeding, Trey Ellis just said in the comments, Bruce, we can't run the ball. Exactly. Traditional runs were not working. And every time we did 3 runs in a row, our drive stalled out. But you still want to have some sort of threat. You got to do something. And at that point, what do? Well, you say, okay, fine. You're going to stick in too high and you're going to rely on your front 4 to stop the run. Well, ideally, we would like to be able to run block well enough that if you stay in too high, we can run the ball. That didn't work. Their front 4 were beating us up front in the run game. And so when that doesn't work, you have to find something else to manufacture the run game.
Right.
So I'm not saying that we need to run more. I'm saying that you need to make sure that you are allocating the running game to sections of the run playbook that have a higher chance and a higher propensity of being effective. And in that case, it's Josh Allen and his legs, which again, we did week 1, but the difference was he couldn't hold on the ball week 1 and he did hold on the ball this time. So he's a big part of it. True. And that's important.
Yeah.
So he gets my hoof.
Hold on. Okay. And we're going to get to your buns here in a second, but we're definitely going to answer this super chat. So Truth to Hearts. Okay. First of all, thank you for your support, Truth to Hearts. You've definitely been, watching our show on the regular, and we definitely appreciate all the love and support. His question or his statement is, you will never know if someone is being sneaky. It ain't like they say that, it's not like they will say, hey, I'm sneaky. So basically, they're talking about the referees Trojan horse and the whole idea. Kind of align with Anthony's point of view about the NFL being a clown show, if you will. What was that? Days of Our Lives? A soap opera with a determined ending. Yeah. WWE, if you want to even go that far. So everybody has their own opinion. I just think
I never thought we'd say Days of Our Lives on our show.
Well,
that caught me off guard.
Leave it to Sterling.
I for those who don't know, I do bring out the color. I'm not just a black chocolate, good-looking man up here. I bring out the color. Okay, I bring out the pop culture with you nerds. Okay,
all right. We did have a WWE reference in the past, though, brother.
Yes, we did. And Bruce, to your point, you do bring up a very good point. I think I think it's because the Bills lack a real running threat to attack the edges. And if you had someone who could do those things, you wouldn't have to disguise your intentions as far as running the ball. Now, I do believe in numbers, obviously, and having, now you have a full 11 players, on a running play when you have design runs for Josh Allen. But moving forward, we know that's not a sustainable method of success. I mean, we don't want our quarterback carrying the ball 11 times, even though he has the build, the body of a Greek god, right? You definitely want to. I just think we lack the weapons we need for this offense in the running game, right? And Josh Allen definitely has to. It's causing him having to make plays, but I love that. So, Bruce, give me your least valuable player. Give me your buns.
First off, Joe Miller, I did say Super Lee. Yeah, thank you for catching that in the that's a Bruceism. I'm allowed to get away with it.
Absolutely.
Come on, man.
You're the Don,
absolutely.
Man.
I can get away with it. And for me, when it comes to the buns, you got to go Bills defensive line. The Bills defensive line gets my buns for this particular game. And they get the buns not because Phillip Rivers wasn't getting the ball out fast. And that's what you hear. Well, he was getting the ball out fast. Yes, he was, but he wasn't getting the ball out faster. And that's the important thing. So Phillip Rivers' time to throw in that game was almost completely identical to his average time to throw over the course of this entire season. It wasn't like they were doing something different than they historically done. And so if you're not able to get pressure the way that you'd like to get pressure, how about getting some hands at some passing lanes? How about making sure that Phillip Rivers with a 2.34 time to throw in that neighborhood has to at least force to hold the ball? This is one of the reasons why I am team coverage being more important than team pass rush. Because when you have these quarterbacks like Roethlisberger this year anyway, and Phillip Rivers who get the ball out quick, the only way you can get pressure on them is to force them to hold the ball. You don't get pressure on them by beating someone. There is a reason why the ESPN pass rush win rate, say that 5 times fast, pass rush win rate is at 2.5 seconds. There's a reason why it's drawn as that line. And the reason that is, darn straight I am. Anyway, I am the best looking of this bunch. Look at my icon. That's a beautiful icon. That's right. Yeah. You got. Anyway, the reason why that is driven at that specific spot and there's a delineation is because they understand that you beating your man in less than 2.5 seconds is just not all that common. And so they use that as a dividing line. Well, if you have an average time to throw of 2.34 seconds, which is under the time necessary to even qualify as a pass rush win, then how are you going to force someone to hold the ball? The average time to sack is always higher every single year in the NFL. The average time to sack is higher than the average time to throw. Every single year. You know why that is? Because the vast majority of sacks don't happen from the pass rusher getting there fast. They happen from the quarterback slowing down. And so because of that, you're not able to get the necessary kind of pressure when you have quarterbacks like that. Well, that's okay, but you got to get your hands in passing lanes at that point. And they did do a good job, but I would argue is probably due to run blitzing from the Bills defense on Jonathan Taylor early on in that game. Now, obviously, Nyheim Hines had his moments and there were some bigger runs later in the game, but the Bills defensive line is the most expensive defensive line in football. This has been said over and over again this season. And when you have a player like that, a defensive line like that, rather, and you don't have that one singular dominant player, that's fine, but you need waves and waves of pressure at that point, and you're not going to get them. And if you can't get waves and waves of pressure because, he's throwing the ball too fast, I hate to break this to you. If there's a quarterback out there who can throw the ball faster and negate an entire section of your team, they're just not doing good enough. So they get my buns for this particular game. And the fact that we go into this offseason going, hey, I think we need a pass rusher when you already have the most expensive defensive line in football, that's not great.
No, it's not. And I think Brandon, I'll give Brandon Bean credit for this. He crafted those contracts to where he can get out of them if he needs to. So, I think you're going to see a big turnover on that defensive line this year. And I, people don't agree with me, but I do think Brandon Bean is going to swing for the fence to try to get a real pass rusher, or a defensive playmaker of some sort on that defense. Because Trey White's great, Matt Milano's great, Ed Oliver and Tremaine, and we got some pieces there. But I think we do need somebody who can just beat double teams and create pressure, create hurried decisions. But Eric, what's your take on all that, man?
So I think McDermott, they definitely need a pass rusher, right? They need guys who, when you can rush for and get to the quarterback, that certainly, helps. All the successful teams in history, I feel like have had a good front four. But I feel like Sean McDermott and Leslie Frazier, they make up for it a lot of the times with their schemes, with their disguised coverages, with the blitzes coming off the edge. But I mean, the Colts had a great offensive line.
Yes.
And I know they're banged up a little bit this year, but they're one of the better offensive lines in the league. And a lot of that is Phillip Rivers' experience and recognizing who's who, what's what. It's harder to hide with a guy like Phillip Rivers on the other side. But I agree. They need a pass rusher, and they need to find a way to get pressure because this defense is going to be elite. I mean, they're already really good when they're playing well. They're a little slow start this year, but if you can get a pass rush, they're going to be unstoppable.
I think, the offensive line definitely showed up for Indy in this game, and so did Phillip Rivers, right? I think all of us were saying coming into this game, we want Phillip Rivers to throw the ball, force him to throw the ball. And that's exactly what he did. He picked apart our defense so many times on some great throws in this game. And what was frustrating for me, to Bruce's point, was the 3rd and 7, the 3rd and 8, the 3rd and 7, 3 in a row. He completed passes and got it because we dropped into this zone coverage and expected our defensive line to do something or at least get him to throw the short pass. But somehow, play after play after play, we got them in the 3rd and long. Again, something we all said was the goal of this team. Make them throw, make them go into 3rd and long where they're not great percentage. And Phillip Rivers really stepped up for his team in that O-line. There were a few plays where, there was holding all this game. But I just kept saying to my friends I was watching with, if they call a holding play on the Bills, I'm going to lose it because there's so many holding plays that we can see on Indy that they're not calling. Luckily, they were at least fair on that point. We're not going to call holding. Okay, we're not going to call it on either side. That's fine if you want to go that route. But it really worked for Indy, and our defense, it's certainly not their best performance in this one on the D-line or in the backfield on some of those 3rd down plays. But Indy played their hearts out. All the respect to them for what they did in this game.
All right, so we got a super chat here, and Bruce, I want you to do the honor of answering this super chat, if you will. So, Truth to Hearts again. Thank you once again. Team coverage over pass rush. The way the NFL is set up, quarterbacks are getting better at improvising, and it doesn't matter who you have in coverage. They can't cover for 5 to 7 seconds. Bruce, what say you, sir? What do you got for Truth to Hearts tonight?
Well, part of this I already talked about. When it comes to the average time to sack in the NFL is always higher than the average time to throw. I mean, that is the absolute dagger in the coverage versus pass rush argument. It is the Bruce drops the mic. Because if the average time to sack is always higher than the average time to throw, then the only time you're getting sacked on average is when you take longer to throw.
Yeah.
That's the point. So it's right there in the metrics. And that say that coverage are more important than pass rush. And when you have things like that and you have the metrics that are clear enough, I feel very confident in that. And he says the way the NFL set up, quarterbacks are getting better at improvising. Doesn't matter who you have in coverage. They can't cover for 5 to 7 seconds. Okay. If you're better at improvising, you're better at getting away from pass rush too. What you're seeing from quarterbacks is you're seeing a massive amount of emphasis being put on people who can make plays in the second phase of the play. Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, these people matter. Kyler Murray, Lamar Jackson. You're seeing quarterbacks where when they come out in the draft, you are saying, can they make plays in the second phase? And can they make plays off of platform? Because they know that that's going to be necessary. Right. And so I would argue that increase in the level of skill and the specific type of skill you see from quarterbacks like Josh Allen, that means that by itself makes coverage more important and holding up for longer on the back ends and being able to bait quarterbacks into things and understanding your landmarks and keys and zone coverage. That makes that more important because even if your pass rush gets there, it's no absolute guarantee they're going to actually sack the guy.
Right.
And so you have these quarterbacks who are more mobile than they've ever been. Everyone's freaking out about Josh Allen rolling to his right. Nobody wants Josh Allen rolling to his right anymore. They're like, no, he rolls to his right. He'll light you up like a Christmas tree. Yeah. So if you have a pass rusher and you're like, congratulations, you got there. What, you want a cookie? You just forced him to do the thing that we just said we want him to do.
Bruce hates pass rushers, y'all.
No, I love pass rushers. I just think coverage is more important.
And Josh Allen's a beast. You can have one guy get through every time. He's just going to stiff arm him and throw the ball anyway. So.
And that's funny, Bruce. And that's a different perspective. I think, and let me add to that too. I think quarterbacks in the past were more fundamentally sound. because they had to rely on ball placement, right? And getting the ball out. Because the offenses they were harder back then. Now we have more spread out. These offenses nowadays are very schemed up, if you will. So that's a different perspective. I think that's why you're seeing a lot of quarterbacks come from college and have direct success in the NFL. Wherein back in the day, these guys, it took them a lot longer to have success. I mean, defenses were a lot tighter. They could put their hands on them and kind of rough wide receivers up and so forth. So it was really dependent on your quarterback to make not only the right read, but the smart play, and also the ball placement was the utmost important. Now we're in an era where we have tremendous athletes, right? They're everywhere, and football's kind of progressed. But I think there's something to be said about what you're saying. And like if you can definitely have great coverage, I think you can have average defensive linemen because they will get coverage sacks, if you will, if the quarterback has to hold on to the ball because they're having a process in that second phase. So I think that's pretty dope that you say that, man. We have another super chat. Eric, I'm going to get you to answer this one. This is from Al Van Dyke. Al, thank you for watching our show, man. We really appreciate it. And damn, is that like a largemouth bass or I don't know what that is?
That's a pike. Come on. That's gotta be a pike.
Look. If you showed me a pair of Jordans, I could tell you which one they are. But if you showed me a fish, I tried, but I don't know. But he says, thanks for all the great shows, man. He says, longtime fan here, but just started following Cover One at the beginning of this offseason, man. Well, thank you. We really do appreciate it. Eric, go ahead and show Al some love, man. Like, tell him, give him a little something, bro.
I didn't see Al there. I just saw a fish.
Okay, there it is. There's the fish. There's
flathead catfish. He says, "Hey,
nice.
Check us out every Tuesday. He checks out every Friday as well on Cover One. Appreciate you listening."
Absolutely.
But I just want to touch on Bruce's point with the quarterbacks.
Okay,
I think the scouting community has changed on this. It used to be they want quarterbacks who can do West Coast. The Tom Brady is the model quarterback, right? This changed a while ago. I think the new model quarterback is Russell Wilson, right? He changed the game. And because I think teams are focused on being fast on defense and focused on that coverage, fast linebackers, right? That's been a trend in the past few seasons with, the fast linebackers getting drafted early, Roquan Smith, I forget the guy's name in Tampa, Devin White, right? So I think you're going to see that trend continue as well. Just wanted to touch on that.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. We'll go with that. All right, so can we go? So Bruce, I was waiting for this next topic because I really want to know what your opinion is. Now, we talked about, for those of you who don't know, we have a little Cover One chat and we kind of talk about, we just kind of throw our ideas in there. We just kind of, debate and talk about some things. But is there a defined Super Bowl window? So we talked about the idea was brought up about, Josh Allen getting a big contract. And I made a comment that, the Bills have 2 years. If they structure like Patrick Mahomes, in a sense, not as top dollar as Patrick's going to get because Josh isn't going to get that. But if they structure it in a similar way, does that make, is the impetus on on Brandon Beane to go out and acquire a big fish or a player to put this offense or defense or this team over the top, kind of like they did with Stephon Diggs? You would have to give us some assets or a free agent spending, right? But if you have Josh Allen in a contract that really doesn't hurt your team for the next 2 years, do you think there is a defined Super Bowl window, or do you think that, once you have the franchise quarterback and you have a great GM and you have a really good coach and they're all three in sync, is that Super Bowl window elongated? What are your thoughts on that? So we'll start with you, Bruce. Eric, we'll go with you next, and then Anthony will finish with you.
So first off, Trey Ellis in the comments asked me to name a Super Bowl team without a pass rush. Every single one of the Patriots Super Bowl teams did not have a significant pass rusher who had 14 sacks. Every single one of them. It was a team defense based around the concept of coverage. Oh, by the way, Bill Belichick pays corners and doesn't pay defensive linemen. So he thinks coverage over pass rush. So yeah, what you like there? Anyway, moving along. No, I'm just kidding. I do think that there is such a thing as a Super Bowl window. However, I think it's a lot more fluid than people think. And I'll tell you what I mean by that. So I think that there is a natural assumptiveness that a Super Bowl window happens with a quarterback on a rookie contract while the remainder of your cap space can be allocated elsewhere. And I do believe that that's true. From an economic standpoint, it makes sense. If you have a high value asset that is not paid relative to its market contract availability, then you have a scenario where you have a extremely valuable asset that's not being allocated like an extremely valuable asset. So obviously that's going to be a big part of it, for sure. However, I do think that Super Bowls are such a way that you have scenarios where you can have a better team who doesn't win. In the NFL, I think we need to get away from the idea that the best team wins the Super Bowl every year, because that's not true.
Right.
The best team wins the Super Bowl sometimes. And the best team wins the Super Bowl in baseball, World Series in baseball, a lot of the time. And in the basketball arena, the best team wins the NBA championship a good amount of the time. Why? Because they increased their margin of error with a series. When you have 7-game series, right, you have a much higher likelihood that the better team is going to win. Thank you, Randy.
Yeah, he's right. He's right.
Darn straight. Randy is right.
Show. No.
Anyway, the fact of the matter is that you have a scenario where in the NFL, the best team doesn't necessarily win the Super Bowl every year. So what you need to do is not try to be the best team. What you need to try to do is be a team that has a reasonable probability of winning the Super Bowl for as many years as humanly possible. And you get that from stability at the head coach, quarterback,
yes,
and GM and ownership, quite frankly, situations. If you have stability there, this is the reason why when I tier quarterbacks, I don't tier them based on things like elite or good or bad or terrible. I say, okay, how much help do you need to give this quarterback to achieve the same results that you were trying to achieve with a lesser quarterback? That's the way that I tier quarterbacks. So the top tier of quarterbacks is can win Super Bowl primarily due to. If he's on your team, you've got a shot, period. Right. Like that's my highest tier of quarterbacks. And if you have someone like that and you can keep him at that level of play for as long as humanly possible, then by definition, you're in a Super Bowl window. Because the Bills could win the Super Bowl this year and have a better team next year. The Bills could not win the Super Bowl this year, win the Super Bowl next year, and have an inferior team next year. So the entire idea of a Super Bowl window is based on the idea that the best team wins the Super Bowl every year. And that's not true. I don't think that's true at all. The best way you could possibly do it is say, listen, not is this guy going to get me over the top? It's could this guy get me over the top? So a Super Bowl caliber quarterback isn't necessarily somebody who won the Super Bowl. It's someone who can be a big part of a Super Bowl winning team. And as long as you have that, you are in a Super Bowl window, period.
Okay.
Fair. But I think the conversation we had was if you have a lesser quarterback, let's say middle tier, like a Jimmy Garoppolo.
Jared Goff.
There is a bigger window on the rookie deal for a guy like that. I'm not saying he's on the rookie deal, but if you draft somebody who's of the Jimmy Garoppolo caliber or tier, you need to take advantage of that money to get him weapons that can maybe bring that offense up to a Super Bowl caliber offense, right? And this argument started out with Josh Allen's in the Super Bowl window. With Josh Allen, I think every year you're going to be in a Super Bowl window because he's an elite quarterback. And obviously it's a team game. You need a good defense. Aaron Rodgers is a good example here. Yeah. Haven't won a Super Bowl in 10 years. But
yeah, I think the Super Bowl window is shorter with people like Jimmy Garoppolo because everything around them has to be perfect. And so it's based on that. How much help do you have to give them? I agree with you. I think that with Josh Allen, the Super Bowl window is longer because we just talked about how he was a big part of the offense, like a huge percentage of the offense. So if you've got Josh Allen, you have basically an offense in that 6'5", 245-pound human being. Congratulations, you have an offense. Just don't screw it up.
All right, so we got
Aaron Rodgers as well.
Hold on. So DK, thank you for tuning in and supporting us. DK asked, Sterling, what are you sipping on? Well, I don't get paid to rep, but y'all already know that I be on this 19 Crimes all the time. And this one is The Warden. So those of you at 19 Crimes, if you're watching our show, just know that the Hoof Live loves you. Hey, I love you. And I sip on and the reason why I do this is every time the Bills win, I sip on the wine as a celebratory drink.
Yeah.
Okay, I am not an alcoholic. I just enjoy wine. This is a new thing for me. So it's 19 Crimes, The Warden. 19 Crimes is super, super good. It's super crisp and super smooth. So
hashtag sponsor us.
Hashtag sponsor us. If you guys out there want to hit up 19 Crimes and on behalf of the Hoof Live, by all means do. But he says, Bruce, if we had Aaron Donald on our defense will be top 3. Questions, any position you guys would target in free agency. So, Bruce, I'll let you handle that part about Aaron Donald to be top 3 on defense. Anthony, I'll let you answer the question about top target in free agency.
I absolutely agree with that statement. Now, to be fair, you're talking about the best defensive player in football and one of the greatest defensive players of all time. So it's a little bit like saying, wow, gosh, if we had Michael Jordan in his prime, I'll bet you we'd be pretty good.
Yeah.
Like, yes, we would. Aaron Donald is a transcendent player. It's one of the reasons why the comparisons with Ed Oliver were always ludicrous coming out. It's like comparing a quarterback with Aaron Rodgers. It's just not fair. It's unreasonable expectations. And I think that, quite frankly, that's probably a big part of why a lot of fans are dissatisfied with what they've seen from Ed Oliver so far. It's because you thought he was Aaron Donald. And he was never going to be Aaron Donald. That's absurd. Expecting anyone to be Aaron Donald is absurd. So I agree. It would be top 3. I'll let Anthony talk about the free agent targets.
Yeah, I mean, free agency is obviously going to depend on what happens with the guys we've already got in-house who are free agents. The biggest thing for me is that offensive line. If they choose to sign and keep guys like Feliciano, like, our guards that are all free agents right now, they have decisions to make there, and that's the most important one for me. Offensive line, without a doubt, there's going to be something that happens there. We have no choice. We can't just walk into next season with the guys we got, because that would mean we don't have any guards, right? So something has to happen there, and that's the position to me to look out for, because we know, and even with a guy like Darrell Williams, which we've had plenty of conversation on the show about Darrell Williams and will they be able to re-sign him, but we know that McDermott and Bean have done a great job of finding the right free agents out there, paying them maybe an undervalued contract for what they might be worth, either because they're coming off injury or whatever they're coming from a bad situation. They have great talent evaluators. We know that they're good at their job. So I think that's the one position that stands out. Offensive line in general, it's all going to depend. Do we re-sign Darrell Williams? Yes. Then it's going to be the guard position that we need to fill. And yes, they could do some of that in the draft as well, but I expect them to do a lot of free agent work at the offensive line position.
Okay. All right. And we got another super chat here. Eli Manning won 2. Enough said. You don't need to be elite to win 1. Well, and Trent Dilfer won 1 as well. And it was thanks to Ray Lewis and that defense that kind of brought it home for him. So, yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't think you guys disagree with that. You don't have to be elite to win a Super Bowl. You can get it done in different ways.
Yeah. Eric, did you finish your point on the Super Bowl window? I don't want to – if we kind of got cut off by the super chat, but if you had something.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Okay, so my thing with the Super Bowl window, very similar to what Bruce and Eric were saying. It all hinges on Josh Allen for this team, but also, to Bruce's point, the consistency with the coaching and the GM, right? It's now about being a fluid team, right? You have one piece that you're going to keep, presumably very long-term, in Josh Allen. Be that 10 years, be it 5 years, whatever you give him, that is where your Super Bowl window limit is for me, right? Because look at a team like the New England Patriots and Bill Belichick. As much as we hated them, why were they consistently good? Number one, because they had the best player in football in Tom Brady, and that they were able to be deficient in other positions because they had them, similar to what Bruce was saying, but also because they were fluid with him throughout his career. When he could throw the ball better than anybody in football, they didn't need to have elite receivers, just guys who were good enough to catch the ball. At the end of his career, they adapted and said, okay, now we need a better offensive line and maybe some dink and donk receivers just to be able to get the ball and let him make the good decision-making that he's still good at. That's going to be what it is. The Bills are still going to continue to need to draft well, which, again, is McBean's strength. These guys seem to be able to do that well. Sign free agents at cheaper prices who are out there that to balance the cap situation with paying a guy like Allen $50 million if it comes down to it. So your window is going to be, it starts and ends with do you have Josh Allen, or at least a franchise quarterback if Josh Allen's at the end of his time in 10 years? And then can you be consistent with your leadership in adapting the team to what it needs to succeed? And right now we know that that's hopefully going to be at least the next 5 or so years for this Buffalo team.
All right. So let's get into the nitty gritty. And I'm not a drunk. I'm not a sloppy drunk at all. Okay, I just enjoy myself when the Bills win. Okay, it's all a show for you guys. Actually, I mean, I like a little bit of wine.
When the Bills win, it's always fancy wines, right? I'm waiting to see when they lose. Is it going to be like Pabst Blue Ribbon or something like that?
It's going to be like Jim. It's going to be like Jim Beam or something.
Stronger. Yeah. There you go. You got to go harder.
All right. Okay. So there was one that I was going to get to, but I'll save that one for the end of the show. But I really want to get to, big victory on Saturday against the Colts, right? And a lot of us, or we've seen or heard, a lot of fans want the tough opponent. Give me the next tough one, And I'll be honest with you, I was really hoping the Steelers were going to win that game because I would much rather face the Steelers than the Ravens. Okay, so as we get closer, you're already seeing the national media start talking about, oh yeah, the Bills don't have a chance against the Ravens. Have you seen what they've done in the past 6 weeks? Have you seen Lamar Jackson being old Lamar Jackson from last year? He's coming back into that MVP kind of role that he had last year, and the Bills don't have a chance now. So we're an hour and 6 minutes into the show. We're gonna kind of get close to our ending here. We're not gonna go too long, but I wanna start talking about this Ravens team. Eric, we'll start with you. Bruce, you'll go next. Anthony, you'll go. But let's talk about, what do you see? We give our predictions at the end of the segment too. But what do you see the strengths? What are the strengths? Eric, I ask you, what are the strengths? Bruce, I ask you, how can the Bills attack this Ravens defense? And Anthony, I'm going to ask you, what do you think? What kind of role do you see Lamar Jackson playing in this game? Is it more of a run heavy Lamar Jackson, or is he going to attempt to let it loose? So I'll start with you, Eric. Bruce, you're next. Anthony, you'll go last.
I think we know the strengths of the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, they've been a good team every year for how long? I mean, this team's as a playoff competitor every single year, right? It's great defense. They're good on the defensive line. Their cornerbacks are probably the best group that the Bills have faced this year, arguably, and it's Lamar Jackson. And that's really it. I mean, they have some weapons with, Marquise Brown, and the run game's always really good, but it's, for me, the strengths, when we're talking that, it's definitely the defense and the studs they have, and Lamar Jackson. Simple as that.
All right, Bruce. Bruce is not there. Anthony, you go ahead. There he is. Hold on.
Yep. No, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay.
You glitched out for a brief second, but you're back. The interesting thing for me about this game is I think this is a really interesting measuring stick for Josh Allen, because for a long time, the question about Josh Allen was, last year, the entire narrative was, what does he do against pressure and man coverage? Mm-hmm. And I think that really this year, if you look at the Arizona game, I think that's really fascinating, because Arizona runs roughly the same amount of man coverage as Baltimore. And Arizona also has a very similar blitz ratio to Baltimore. And so they don't have the horses that Baltimore has as far as personnel goes, but schematically, there are some similarities there. And there were specifically some zone pressures that Arizona drew up that kind of messed with the protection up front. Now, part of that is because, I did not fall asleep.
He did Lamar Jackson. He took a shit.
That's right. Absolutely. I was cramping, guys. I was cramping. I don't know what you're talking about.
You got the bubble guts. You got them bubble guts.
I think part of it comes down to the fact that Brian Winters isn't playing anymore, because a lot of the Arizona third quarter lull, a couple of those plays were Brian Winters and miscommunications and issues with those particular things. We're not going to have to worry about that again. But if you see a similar defensive style, right, and you see it with better horses, what are you going to do? And I think the key for me is, let's do the thing that allows Josh Allen to better identify pressure, which is let's go empty, right? Let's spread them out. let's go empty. Let's do the things that allow quarterbacks to better identify where pressure is coming from. Right. And let's force them into as many defensive backs as humanly possible, because that's what I want. I don't want the Ravens to have a ton of linebackers on the field. I want the Ravens to have as many defensive backs on the field as humanly possible. And if they happen to roll out as many linebackers as possible, I want to go after Patrick Queen. And Patrick Queen has not been an overly effective part of the Ravens defense overall this year. And so if they do roll out heavier sets, then I want to be doing it for a specific purpose. I don't want to just do it to do it. I want to do it with the idea that you're going to be able to attack Patrick Queen in coverage. And if they don't have that as a plan, then I want to see 10 personnel. That's what I want to see from this Bills team to attack this Ravens defense.
I was just about to say that. And you know what? And I'll throw something else to kind of sweeten the deal. Even if your guy, what's his name, Kenny Stills doesn't know the offense, I still want him out there, because even with him out there, him running a 9 route or a post or even a drag, just having him out there and his speed and so forth is going to be distracting as hell. You know what I'm saying? So I would love to see Kenny Stills show up in this game. And I would go 10 personnel. And look, the Bills are in a position where you're in the playoffs, you're in the divisional round, and you have a chance to play in the AFC Championship game against a beatable Chiefs team. You better sell out and do everything look. I don't want to lose this game or be in this game and be like, you know what? Damn, I wish they would have done this. Brian Dable needs to pull out everything in his bag. I need to see it all. Okay. And Bruce, I love your point there. Anthony, go ahead.
Yeah, you originally asked me about Lamar Jackson, and I think that gets to one of my two keys to this game. To me, there's two ways I could see this going. The ideal way is that Lamar Jackson is obviously the key to this team, and two ways really in this too. He can run, and it all goes through him. They have a great run game in J.K. Dobbins and Lamar himself. The Bills have shown that when they target the run, they can shut down the run. The Bills, remember, were the team last year that showed everybody how to stop Lamar and this offense, or at least limit them, which is what you need to do to win the game regardless, right? And if we can at least slow him down and stop the run, let him pass. I mean, we would love to see Lamar Jackson throw the ball 40 times in this game. I'd all but guarantee you a victory if that happens. But we know that's not going to be their approach. They are going to try and run the ball, control the clock, and score points to take a lead over this Bills team. And our defense has to be aware of that. And on the other side of it, with that defense, as you were saying, Sterling, the speed is going to be key in this game, because they have guys that can get to the quarterback. They have guys that are good in coverage, but they can be beat by speed. And I do think that's going to be key. I'm not sure if it'll be Stills coming up for this game, but John Brown is that guy for me, who's our speedster who needs to get involved. The other side of the coin, the other approach for me would be this. I don't give a crap what they do on offense. I don't give a crap if Lamar Jackson has 300 yards and 4 touchdowns, because our offense is what needs to take over this game. Our offense needs to set the tone. Our offense needs to score on every drive, and that can be alone what limits Lamar Jackson and this team. So regardless of what our defense does, I believe our offense has the firepower and the ability to take over and win this game. That's certainly not the ideal situation. Our defense needs to show up better than they did against Indy, although, again, we could argue that we did what we wanted against Indy. We made them pass, and they just did it successfully. But we know Lamar Jackson is not Phillip Rivers when it comes to passing the ball, not even close. So if we can force him to pass the ball more than he wants, that's going to benefit us in terms of turnovers, in terms of mistakes, in terms of limiting yardage. That's going to be the key to the game. Our offense has to be able to do what they do. And Baltimore, really, I think we can do it against this matchup. It actually matches up well with what we do.
Eric, did you already give your take on that?
Yeah, I gave you the strengths, but I could add a few things here.
Okay. No, you don't have to if you don't.
No, we're good. We're good. They are what you think they are. I mean, everyone knows what the Ravens are. They're always on ESPN. They're always a story because Lamar Jackson's must-watch football. He's so fun to watch.
Uh-oh.
Did it?
32 and 32nd in the league in average passing yards per game. You good?
You're good.
Yeah, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
And they are first in the league in average rushing yards per game. So literally, if you can slow down this rushing attack, and you don't even have to stop it, I think, slow down. And if Josh Allen can play perfect football, like this game is the typical whoever makes the least amount of mistakes will win.
Okay, Bruce, I got a question for you. Now,
I'm ready.
there's talking about having TJ Yeldon be active in this game as the second running back. How big of an impact do you think the screen game will come into play? Because if you have a TJ Yeldon in the game, his greatest strength is his ability to catch the ball in the backfield. And I think the screen game, which we haven't seen a lot of, the Bills do use the screen very effectively. How do you think that could be a factor in this game?
Whenever you face a defense that has a high blitz rate, you have to make sure that that's part of it. And we saw earlier this year, we saw some significant success with that tunnel screen to smoke. Right. That was used as kind of a specific audible call against pressure. And I'm sure that Josh Allen will have calls like that to be able to scheme up after he hard counts and tries to draw out the blitzers, that I'm sure he'll be able to audible or kill to another particular play or screen against the pass rush. I do think that's going to be part of it because that's one of the things that TJ Yeldon does well. I would be surprised if we saw a lot of TJ Yeldon. I would be very, very surprised. I don't think that it's going to be a 1-to-1 ratio of all the snaps that would previously have gone to Zach Moss now go to TJ Yeldon. I think more likely TJ Yeldon just becomes a lot more of a bell cow than he was previously, because that's kind of the vibe I got. Sorry, Singletary. So I do think that Singletary becomes more of a bell cow than he was previously. And because of that, I don't think that you necessarily have a game plan where you specifically have things built in a large quantity for your running back who might get 4 touches. So I don't think TJ Yeldon by himself is what grants the screen game any sort of significance. I think that Baltimore Ravens defense is what grants the screen game significance in this game. I'll be surprised if TJ Yeldon has 10 touches.
No, I don't think he'll get 10 touches, but I think, diversifying your attack, kind of coming at it from organically, having TJ Yeldon in there. I mean, they're going to be thinking, you have to do something to offset that blitzing, and then it's not just from their front, they bring it from the edges as well. And I think you're right, man. They're going to have to use those screens to scheme up some stuff. I think Brian Dable is going to be okay with that. I think you're going to see a lot of McKenzie coming out, in the jet sweep action. I think we're going to see a lot of that,
Well, we did see the Bills adapt a little bit when they're not running the ball efficiently. What do? They do these 1 and 2 yard passes that are basically run plays, only it's to a wide receiver on the outside who has a little bit of room to run there. And they're lining up in 4 wide receiver formations, so that opens things up for them. And that's a great way to respond. It's basically a screen pass, right? That's what you're doing in those plays. So hopefully they can keep that going as well. And Josh Allen in general is good against the blitz, right? That they blitz. That's what this defense does. Josh Allen plays very well against the blitz. So we hope to see that consistency continue into this game to power our offense.
See, I don't see a problem with calling Singletary's number. They called on it last year in the wild card game versus the Texans, and he showed up.
Yeah.
He played really well in that game. There's been many other games when you call his number, he does answer the call. Seems a lot quieter this year. Only 3 attempts last week.
But that's against Indy, a team that is the number 1 run defense in the NFL. So Baltimore is certainly not that. They're good on defense, but they're not great at any one thing. They blitz a lot.
It'll be fun to watch for sure, but I don't see a problem with just giving, Singletary the vast majority of the carries.
Yes.
And then, obviously working Josh Allen with that. And I really don't see a problem with that. I feel confident going into the Baltimore game with just Singletary back there.
Okay. All right. So before we even wrap up here, tell me, what is your prediction for Saturday night's game? What do you guys have? Eric, we'll start with you. Anthony will go with you next, and Bruce will finish with you on that. What is your
prediction or bold prediction? Okay.
Just prediction. We're not going to be bold right now, okay? We're just going to go straight prediction.
Regular prediction.
Yeah, we're just going straight prediction, man.
Straight prediction. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think a lot of people would say that right out the gate.
That's probably
I'm thinking a final score of something like 17-13. I'm thinking, I think so.
Okay.
It's 2 top defenses, right? And, I think the McDermott will have a plan for Lamar Jackson. I think he'll struggle at times. He'll make his plays, but I think when it comes down to 3rd and 11, you got to have it. It's a passing play. I don't think he gets it done, right? And, I think with Josh Allen against that defense, it's a tough matchup. It's not going to be smooth sailing, I don't think so.
No, we'll see.
I think they do enough to get the win, but low scoring is my prediction.
Low scoring. I think that seems like a bold prediction to me. Although one thing I was just thinking while you said that is that would make special teams play very key in this game. And I trust the Bills special teams at this point. We know our punter's been playing way better than any of us thought he would at the beginning of the year when we were putting other teams' punters on the roster instead of this guy, and they stuck to him, and it really paid off. And I talked about earlier, Tyler Bass and what he's done. So if it is a close game and it comes down to those guys, I do trust that we can beat him in that fashion. That being said, that is not how I see this game going down. I think this is going to be a slobber knocker for the Bills. They're going to have to score points, and they're going to give up some points because, like it or not, Lamar in this offense is pretty good. So I think speed, as I said earlier, is going to be key. So my prediction is that John Brown leads this team in receiving yards this week, not Stephon Diggs or Cole Beasley. I think it's John Brown because of his speed, because he's most likely going to be on the second. They're going to follow Stephon Diggs and double cover Stephon Diggs. And that's going to lead to John Brown having a big game here. And I think the final score is going to be 31-24 Buffalo. Okay. So, I don't know if that's high scoring by today's NFL standards, but it's a little bit higher than what Eric says.
Bruce, what you got, bro?
I'm going to go 28-24 Buffalo. I think that the interesting thing for me about this game is that it almost feels like Josh Allen has an opportunity to right two different wrongs instead of one. He talked about earlier today about being able to watch back the Ravens game from last year and how he was able to see how far he's come since then. And when you take that and then you add in the Arizona game, that I do think this offense has gotten better since the Arizona game, I think there's an opportunity here to score some points against the Ravens defense. And I do think that I actually feel a little bit more confident about the Bills against this Ravens defense than I did the Bills against the Colts defense.
Right.
Not because the Colts defense is better, just because it's different. Styles make matchups. It's just like fighting. Styles make matchups. And while the Colts were sitting in too high and daring us to beat them 7 yards at a time with quarterback draws, and then the second they go down a man, we hit Stephon Diggs for a touchdown, the Ravens are going to give you opportunities. They're not going to shy away from who they are. The Ravens are a pressure team who wants to play a decent amount of man. Obviously, every team in the entire NFL plays a splash of man, a splash of zone. There are no just, I only play this one defense. That's just, that doesn't exist. So that's a big part of who the Ravens are, for sure. Mm-hmm. And Josh Allen isn't going to shy away from that, and they're not going to shy away from that. And so I think that Josh Allen has shown the ability to be able to succeed against pressure looks, and he has the weapons to do so. One of the reasons why we went out and got Stephon Diggs in the offseason was to give Josh Allen more answers against pressure and more answers against man, because John Brown and Cole Beasley by themselves were not enough of them. So he has more answers now than he's ever had. He's more comfortable now against pressure and man than he's ever been. And so I think that the Bills can score some points against the Ravens defense, despite them being admittedly a really good defense. And so I'm going to say 28-24 Buffalo.
Okay. I like that. We got a super chat before we even get out of here. Blocko Sports Network says, great show, fellas. Also, smash the old like button, you canavs or whatever.
Names.
Smash the like button.
Naves.
Naves. Or knife, if you will. A knife. But yeah, no. Smash that like button. And if you guys are watching on YouTube, leave a quick comment in the comment section. Just say, hey, what's up? Enjoy the show. Those kind of things, we'll like them. And it kind of boosts the YouTube algorithm. Again, we kind of love the likes. Honestly, we do this for the betterment or for our own benefit, but for your benefit as well. And it's fun for us. We do we all put a lot of work into this thing, and we try to provide you guys with the best content available. Yeah. And having guys like Bruce Nolan on, the dawn of Bills Mafia. I don't care what he says. He is that to me. But, we really do appreciate those things.
And we always react to those, right? We comment,
absolutely.
We interact with you, anywhere. YouTube, on Twitter, obviously, as well. But definitely hit us up. We love to interact with all of our viewers. So if you comment, you'll hear back from one of us, guaranteed.
All right. So, and before we go, I got to give my prediction. Okay. I think there's opportunities to be had on this Ravens defense, like you guys even mentioned. I think Marcus Peters, I think he is, he's very, he likes to take advantage. He wants to make the big play. I think you can set him up with some double moves. I think he's going to have a hard time with speed on the edge. Marlon Humphrey can be beaten coverage. So we saw A.J. Brown have some success on him last week. And the Ravens are going to try to blitz. And when you try to blitz Josh Allen, those legs come into play. I think he has a great opportunity to carve him up. So I'm going to go Bills 31, Ravens 21. I think they will they're going to stop. I don't think Lamar Jackson is going to get over 200 yards passing in this game. I think he's going to be around 170. He's going to probably hit around 86 yards rushing. But if the Bills can keep the Ravens out of the red zone, it's game over. If you keep them out of the red zone, there ain't no way the Bills are going to lose this game. That's just my opinion. Okay, now it may change leading up to Saturday because I'll be nervous. But it is Anthony's birthday, so make sure you guys give him a little shout out.
Get a Bills win, all right? That's what I want for my birthday this year. I've never been able to ask for that. That's go.
Right. We have another super chat before we got Jason. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. He goes, I've never seen a team improve against pressure and man coverage as much as I've seen the Bills improve from 2019 to 2020 against it. I have hope we will put up points. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the Bills will put up points. I mean, we all kind of agree to that, except for Eric and his little 17-point prediction. But they have improved. They definitely they've improved against pressure. And that just goes to the maturation of Josh Allen and Brian Daboll. How they've kind of evolved and this offense has evolved, and they kind of found out what works best for Josh Allen so that he can shine in these moments. John Harbaugh and those guys, they're kind of know that they want to do what they're going to do. They want to dictate the game, especially the defensive. They want to dictate the game. So I think, we're going to see, let's not mention that Josh Allen's probably one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL when it comes to recognizing what's going on pre-snap and adjusting. And Brian Daboll and those guys have done a good job as a coaching staff of not just changing at halftime, but changing as the game evolves. And so those are things that to look out for. But wherever you watch the game this weekend, man, be safe. Okay, please be safe. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. And we're definitely going to be back at it again next week.
I saw before we close out. I just wanted to say I saw in the chat somebody said, "Oh, if the Bills win, we're setting up for that big matchup with Kansas City." But can we take a minute to just pause and realize that the AFC Championship game, like it or not, could potentially be the Cleveland Browns playing the Buffalo Bills. And that if you would have said that 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, you would have been laughed out of the building. Like, no way in hell, I'll bet you $1 billion that never happens, right? But here we are, where that is a very big potential. And Cleveland's playing well, so don't write them off against Kansas City just yet. But whoever it is, the Bills will be ready.
I'll definitely be rooting for Cleveland. I love a good underdog.
Yeah.
And they're the ultimate underdog story this season.
All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves there. Cleveland's not beating the Chiefs, okay? That ain't happening. That's not happening.
You didn't think they beat Pittsburgh with no head coach and no offensive line?
Pittsburgh's trash. Pittsburgh. Chase Claypool and Juju.
Kansas City has not been impressive in the last 3 games.
Hit the mute button. Hit the mute button. But anyway, Bruce, do you have any closing comments, man?
No, I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. It's been an absolute blast. I hope that I was able to hold up my end of the bargain when I was coming here. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your days. I thank you so much to everybody in the comments, even the guy who told me that he didn't like me. That guy, I appreciate that guy too. So I appreciate all you guys. Bills Mafia is very special. They're very special.
Can you tell us how our fans can follow what you're doing? Not that nobody knows who you are, because you're kind of that dude. But go ahead and share what you're doing and how our fans can keep up with you and what you got going on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. My name is Bruce Nolan. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Bruce Exclusive. And I am a member of the Buffalo Rumblings community. I do some occasional writing for them. I did a big mock draft. I do some couple of research projects for them in the off season. And then my podcast, The Bruce Exclusive. It's audio only. Sorry, there's no video associated with me. I'm not a video guy. I actually don't even have a webcam. Everyone was, you turn off your webcam? No, I don't own a webcam. So I don't have to worry about it malfunctioning if you don't have it. So you can find my show, The Bruce Exclusive, every Thursday and Friday, wherever you get your podcasts on the Buffalo Rumblings podcast feed.
Right on, man.
Absolute must listen. If you're not listening to Bruce, you don't know what you're missing. You have to go check him out. And one episode in particular that sticks out to me that I know you're going to expand on in the off season, and I can't wait for it, is the quarterback stew, the Thanksgiving Day episode. For those of you who haven't listened, it's easy to find because it was on Thanksgiving this year. And that was just absolute art of how to break down the quarterback position. As somebody who likes numbers and is a scientist, obviously, all of these different metrics are out there. And I'm always like, okay, but this seems random. And there's this factor that doesn't really make sense in here. And do I trust this number? And it seems like always people can pick whatever quarterback, stat that they want to puff up the guy that they like over another. But Bruce really broke it down in all of the metrics and is going to go in depth further in the offseason. Also wrote it up as an article on Buffalo Rumblings, I believe. So definitely check that one out. The quarterback stew.
I appreciate that, guys, very much. Thanks so much for having me. You guys have been unbelievably gracious to have me on, and I really enjoy this. This is my third time now on the Cover One Live. I did a film room with Eric. Mm-hmm. I was on with Anthony this past week, and then I was on with you guys, and every single one of you has been unbelievably kind to me. And I cannot possibly thank you enough for having me on here. I'm a big fan of the show. I've been following you guys for a long time, and we are extremely blessed as Bills fans to have the type of media and content creation we have. And I've said this before, I have lived all over the country, and this is not hyperbolic for me to say. There isn't a group of media and content creators that's even close to being what the Bills have. And if you're in Buffalo, you might not necessarily know that. But if you're in Cleveland, or if you're in Philadelphia, or if you're in Washington, D.C., or if you're in New York or Miami, you will know very quickly it's not the same, guys. It is just not the same. So all of you in the comments, and all of you listening to this on an audio file later, and all of you who have taken the time out of your day to realize that you support these guys, yes, you support them, but the fact of the matter is you demanded quality content, and you got it. You demanded that from people, and you got it. And so the Hoof is an example of what the fan base deserves. The reason we have the best content creation community is because we have the best fans.
Absolutely.
Hey, and you said that very eloquently, Bruce, and we appreciate it. And we're fans of you too, man. We're fans of you. And I want to drop something before we go, and I'll keep this really, really brief, but I will be at the Senior Bowl in a few weeks in Mobile, Alabama, and that's going to be super cool. So, every NFL team is represented. You're going to have the, big media, ESPN, NFL Network, and those guys. So I'll actually get a chance to rub some elbows with some of these guys and network and talk about, what we have going on in the Buffalo Bills community, but also get a chance to talk to some of these guys that are going to be attending the Senior Bowl. I'm going to try to get some interviews and some exclusive content for you guys, because my favorite time of the off season is draft season. Okay, Eric and I, we live for that. That's our thing. So I couldn't be more happy. And not to say I want to wrap the season up, but I am definitely excited for the off season and the Senior Bowl, and Cover One will be represented there. And I just wanted to let you guys know to stay tuned for that. So anyways, man, thank you so much, you guys, for listening. This is the Hoof Live podcast. And thank you to Bruce Exclusive, the Bruce Nolan. Thank you, Anthony. Anthony's birthday is on Saturday. And Eric always keeping it real, man. This is the Hoof Live, and we out of here.
Go Bills.
Go Bills.